Right. Outland allies, we are finally back at the outpost. Sorry it took so long. Let me start this introduction by introducing myself. This is episode 6, Public Land Tactics. I'm Alex with Outland Allies. We were up near work this week painting, so we decided to drop in and stream. Sorry, last couple weeks got a little bit crazy due to the fact I had men's member guests. I am a full time golf professional. If this is your first time here, not a content creator. So do know that sometimes our content does have to take a backseat, at least for now, in our content creation journey because this doesn't pay the bills for me where I'm currently sitting, and the job that I hold here does. So that does take precedence over this. As much as I love being here for you guys every day of the week, as often as I can. If you want to see me, excuse me, I'm sorry, in that golf professional role, feel free to check me out on TikTok with the same name, Outland Allies. We're there most mornings from 7:30 to about 8:30, about an hour every morning, doing push-ups for you guys, just for tapping that like button. Just a way to kind of table and bring people in over to my YouTube channel. So welcome in tonight. What are we going over? Welcome back to the Outpost. Tonight we're talking about one of the hardest things out there, but the most rewarding parts of hunting the public land, and that's crowds, pressure, accesses. All those things can be a challenge and make you want to throw your hands up and say, you know what, forget this. Or we can use those things to make our hunting skills sharper and make us a better hunter. We can either see those as stumbling blocks or stepping stones. And I'm here tonight to give you a quick stream on how to maybe look at some of those roadblocks or obstacles such as pressure, access points, overstress on a land, and how to get around that a little bit. Because, not all of us do have access to private land. I've never really had access to private land, so I've had to learn how to adapt and how to do on the fly, so to speak. I've been there. You roll up to the parking lot. You thought you were going to be there early, and there's already 3 trucks there, and you think, well, there goes the whole morning. But, I'm here to tell you that does not have to be the end of the story. We don't have to quit the hunt there. We don't have to give up just because we think it's full. I've had some of my most successful days on the days where I pulled up to when the dove field was full, or what I thought 100 hunters were out there with bows. So do know, how do we do that? Hit that like button if you've ever been there. You pulled up to that parking lot early in the morning on that public land and it was loaded with trucks, even though you thought you were going to be there early. Noob, thank you. Usually, everybody's got to start somewhere, right? But good to know. So we'll go ahead and let's jump into that 80-20 mindset. We're going to set that mindset on pressure, so to speak. Pressure isn't the problem. It is a constant. If you are in public land, you'll be constantly facing pressure. There's no magic trick to making the pressure disappear on a public track. What separates how successful you're going to be on that public track is how you adapt. 4 rules I think that you can follow. They're going to help you win more than any gadget out there. The first one out there is going to be go further. Most people are going to stop at a mile or right off the beaten path. Take that time to, in that off season or even during season when you have time to push down that game trail, push a little further where you don't see that marking tape and things like that. And that's okay. You'll have that, but be willing to go further. So that's rule 1. Go harder. And that kind of ties right back around into rule 1. Be willing to go through that thick brush from time to time. That's where when we talked about like our other preseason scouting, looking at that aerial surveillance, and knowing what's through brush lines and on the other side of tree lines can be very beneficial. So when you're, bushwhacking, so to speak, that you are headed to an opening or a riverhead or something like that. Hey, from Brazil. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome in. Make sure to hit that like button, jump over and subscribe. Would love to see that. It would be awesome if we could hit that 200 tonight and hit our 200 subscribers over on YouTube tonight. That would be amazing. Catch our YouTube up with our TikTok, right? So remember, we're going to go further, we're going to go harder, and we're going to go earlier or later. Hunters do love daylight and comfort, so deer are going to shift when people don't. So don't be afraid if sun up isn't until 7 o'clock. Don't be afraid to get out there at 4 in the morning. Yeah, you might have to catch a little nap, maybe even set that little vibration alarm for where you're sit down. But don't be afraid to get out there early and put that time out in the woods. It is going to benefit you. Go quieter. Remember to know where you're going is going to help. Practicing that route, going it, maybe more than once will help you find the tips and tricks moving down that trail, how to not get your pack stuck, how to not get your bow stuck or gun or whatever, hunting apparatus that you're using. Can hook a mean bass. I am pretty decent at fishing, so thank you. We do have a fishing video, I think, on their full length. Check that out over on the YouTube. So I'm used to pointing. Have a great night. I'm used to pointing because most of my streams I'm done on TikTok. Sorry, and I'm used to the name being up here and stuff like that. So if you see me point or do something crazy, I'm sorry. Charles, how are we doing this evening? So our rules for the 80-20 mindset are going to be go further, go harder, go earlier, go quieter. Is there any of those that you guys struggle with out there? Is it more distance, time, silence? I know sometimes the, yeah. I know that some of the things that I struggle with sometimes, especially when I'm going early, can be silence. That's a good time to go over your pack and make sure that nothing's tight or everything's tight, nothing's loose, nothing's dangling, nothing's jingling. You have a good egress and maybe that red light to help you a little bit if you get stuck, so you're not making lots of noise out there. Now that we've got our 4 rules of going farther, harder, quieter, and earlier, one of the things we want to talk about is pressure mapping, or how to read pressure on a map. You can see it plain as day if you actually know what you're looking for. How are we doing, Alex Baker? I hope you're having a great night. What do I mean by this? The parking areas, the main access trails, places where you're seeing cut branches, lots of boot tracks, lots of flagging tape, shooting lanes carved out. Those are what are we going to be, if you're using an app like Onyx, if you're using an old-fashioned map and you're detailing your map as you go out there, those are places we can put on there that we need to avoid, are those areas like really close to parking areas, access trails, cut branches, boot tracks, flagging tape. Unless there's some good brushes next to parking areas, because there have been a couple times, I've seen a fresh deer rut or scrape 200 yards from a parking lot just because I'm taking a way that most people aren't taking into the woods. So don't be afraid to get creative and go look. Like I said, deer don't vanish when all the pressure comes. They just shift. They move further away from where the pressure is coming. So do know as that pressure increases, the less likely they are going to be to take that trail. So just because we were catching them on the trail cam down the main trail every day of the year prior to season, once season comes in and that trail's getting blasted every morning, afternoon, and evening, probably not going to be seeing that deer on that trail at least at the same times. So let's make sure we're looking for those pressure zones, when they're moving around those parking lots and stuff, it typically is at night. They're going to stage, but they're going to stay way deeper during those daylight hours. Talking about Onyx real quick let's go back to that. If you're using one of these apps, you can use that to e-scout, as I talked back about going harder, going further, knowing that where you're pushing actually leads to something. I like to use apps like Onyx, or actually Google Maps works great if you want to use that, to go ahead and see what's out there and what I'm getting out into. I can place pins out on my map on Onyx, so that way when I get out into the woods, I can actually chase that pin and I'm not aimlessly being like, oh, I want to go that way. Yes, you can use a compass and stuff to help get you in that direction, but that can surely help you, at least if you're hunting in a place that has service, get you out to that spot a little bit more accurately, right? So using eScout could help. Has anybody been shocked to find something right near one of these pressure zones or right around these pressure zones simply because the brush was thicker, or the trail or game trail that you're following was a little bit of an offshoot, that you saw something right outside these pressure zones that, can kind of annotate what I'm talking about, that deer don't disappear. They just shift. So we've got that going. Now, another thing we can look at to changing our way to changing up this pressure could be some of these access hacks. How often are you getting out into the woods without tipping off the entire woods that you're there? You're breaking sticks, brushing things like that. Ways that you can get in or around your property that actually help. One of the most successful ways I found on a property I hunted up in Ohio was a set of railroad tracks that ran parallel to the property line that public property line that we had, so it was away. Now you couldn't use the rocks because at night, walking on the gravel makes a lot of noise. But if you're willing to balance and walk right down the rail of the railroad tracks, you could make a 30-minute walk in under 10 minutes and make it really quiet, just because I was able to use a land terrain feature that was around. So don't be afraid to use some of those things to your advantage, one of those access hacks. So, me just simply using the railroad tracks made it easier for me to get in. Something else to look at, is there a way to use water to get where you're going? A lot of the public hunting areas that I know I got to in Ohio before I moved down to South Carolina had a lot of large bodies of water attached to them. Is there a way you can launch from a canoe and get to that access point from the map? Make it a little bit easier for yourself to, maybe not have to walk as far, or be a lot quieter when you're going in the morning. If you've only got a 5-yard walk or 10-yard walk from the creek bed to the stand because you got right out of your canoe, that's obviously going to be a lot quieter and a lot better than a 45-minute walk through the woods where you're dragging everything, stepping on sticks, and having to duck, dip, and dive the whole way, right? So, guys, another thing to look out for on the map you can do while you're e-scouting is be aware of those things like we've talked about on the previous stream, like benches, saddles, narrow crossings, choke points, elevation changes. You can denote those things on the map so as you're going, you don't get yourself hung up or get yourself into trouble trying to access a point quietly because you have to slide down the side of an embankment, because where you want to go, elevation changes, 100 feet in less than 100 yards. Things like that can really save you a lot of time and, stress. Coca-Cola break. I know it's terrible. I'm sorry. A good something to denote right here is if you are using those apps like Onyx or Google Maps or something like that, a screenshot of that map can go a long ways and save you a lot of trouble. So if for whatever reason, when you're out and about, that service does decide to fail you, you can at least have a hard reference of the map. I know that won't show you exactly where you're at on the map, but that will give you the ability to make a hard reference back to where you have been, or at least a hard reference of the area. So if it is a large area, you don't end up getting yourself lost. I do know, like in at least Midwestern Ohio, where I did a lot of the public land hunting, some of those properties were only 400, 500, 600 acres, not very large. Excuse me. One of the places me and my friend did go to up in Ohio, AEP, was 64,000 acres. So it was a little more about actually knowing how to use land nav and get where you wanted to go. So having a hard copy of that map, be a screenshot or an actual aerial map on hand, could actually save you a lot of time and trouble if you are hunting one of those large public lands out there. Be safe out there, be smart, make educated decisions if you have an opportunity. That's why I bring my dog Nymeria. Outland allies, don't go alone if you don't have to. Always have a friend with you if you can at least have it. Have a battle plan with your buddy, your loved one, or someone who knows that you're out there. That's just a quick side note to throw out there. So when you do go out there, especially if it is some of those large public hunting spaces like they have out west and in the south in some areas, the people know where you're going, they know what you're doing, and they know about where you should be at. So if you're not back, something does happen, they know where to start looking for you. That's always important to note, Some people have been lost and they shouldn't have been. So let's get out there. Another thing we can talk about is changing out there is the timing and rotation. Here's the big killer. Hunting over the same tree over and over and over and over, especially when it's a pressured spot, it can burn out spots really fast, and it can burn out your spot. So shifting timing windows, midday hunts, 10:30 to 1:30, when most hunters leave, you're giving yourself a look at the woods when people aren't there. Maybe just the last 90 minutes of the day, before dark. Change it up a little bit. After a rain or a cold front, deer are up before the people, so don't be afraid to get out there. The animals know when the weather's about to change and what's coming, so don't be afraid to get out in front of it, especially if there's some daylight before or after, for you to get out there and have a little bit of stand time. That can really benefit you if you know when you're watching the weather reports, so make sure you're getting on that. Weekdays, if you have the opportunity, that's one of the good things about being a golf professional sometimes is I can schedule my days to be not always off on the weekend because I have to work weekends a lot. So if you can schedule yourself on weekdays as opposed to the weekends, that can make a huge difference in the timing and what the deer are seeing because, as you know, as most people know, a lot of us out there are the weekend warrior, right? We don't always get to get out to the stand during the week, so the woods are going to be more pressured on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? because those are the days that everybody else can hunt. And you know how I know those are more pressured? Because they're when I have to work, because I'm a golf professional. It's when you all want to hunt or golf if you're not hunting. So I know if I'm pressured here, you're going to be pressured more in the woods. So maybe see if you can adjust that, just like your tee time a little bit. See if you can adjust that and give yourself a little bit of different timing on those animals. Maybe a Tuesday hunt, Wednesday hunt. Grab that, like I said, that 90 minutes on a weekday after a work day one day if you're able to. Just set it up. Maybe load your car to get out there and be there right after work, and you just don't get to go home beforehand. Unfortunate, but when you're looking to bag that big deer or put some meat on the table, that can be the difference between being successful this year and not getting anything at all. Rotate your sets. Give it a spot at least 2 to 3 days before you go back. If you don't have, stands and you aren't hunting over corn or something like that, or baiting, try to rotate where you're hunting a little bit. Try to get out there early season, pick yourself a couple spots, or if you didn't get out and go scout, that's okay. Put the time in now, get out there, find you a couple really good spots to sit, via the track we talked about on one of our previous lives. Feel free to go back and check that out. The ways to spot that track, how fresh it is. Find a couple spots like that on the map, pin them, come back to them and hunt them, right? Rotate when you hunt them. Maybe, I hunted this one in the morning. I won't hunt it again until I can get to an evening hunt 2 days later, right? Mix it up when you're sitting, where you're sitting, give those deer a different look. One of the deer that I got, I had hunted that stand at night 3 days prior. It was just a pop-up blind that I had with me. 3 days later, it was a morning hunt, and I ended up being successful there. I hadn't had any deer on the camera through that stand in the morning there, but we gave a different stand a different look, and we were successful. So don't be afraid to mix it up. Like I said, don't be to give those deer or whatever game it is you're giving a different look. Don't be afraid to go out there when it's raining, when it's snowing, when the weather's looking a little different. You might be uncomfortable, but that gives you a look or a different chance or different opportunity to get out there. One of those days it might be a little windy and you might be like, oh, I don't like this, but that wind can mask your noise and give you a way to get into that blind a lot more quietly and give you that opportunity to get a look at that deer that's been eyeing you, but somehow you trigger them every time you come in. So don't be afraid to use the weather or the timing and rotation to your advantage, right? And if we jump back, what are our first rules, right, that we went over? Go further, go harder, go earlier or later, go a little quieter. So that's one of those things that tie right around into that, right? Is some of those timing and rotation hacks. One of the big things I can also say that you should be looking for while you're out there is reading signs under pressure. Rubs and scrapes, don't always take them at face value. If it's something like in the middle of the parking lot, obviously that happened in the middle of the night. I seriously doubt the deer was scraping their antler while all 7 trucks were sitting there. I mean, it's a possibility. Don't rule it out. But, that's nighttime. Fresh tracks with dew crushed, that's daylight. Start using some of those context clues to helping you be a little bit more successful. Think micro. Not the whole, the whole ridge. The first 30 yards out in front of us, right? That's where the pressure deer are. Let's start getting outside of that. Let's see that microcosm. Let's see where everybody's going. And then let's start thinking outside of that, right? Go further, go quieter, go harder, right? Nighttime versus day. I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell, especially when deer are pressured. But make sure we're looking for those context clues, especially for those of you who don't have cameras to put out there. I get those can be expensive. And especially to have some of those plans to be getting pictures to your phone all the time can be expensive as well. So we want to be careful with that. Just be looking for some of the context clues that indicate whether the deer are bedding or down around there, if it's just passing through and eating. What works for us, right? What works for that area that you're at? Is there any tips that anybody out there that's watching me blather on's got for us that you feel like, Alex, you are just missing? I can't believe you are an idiot. Why have you not said this tonight? Drop it in there, let me know. I would love to see it. One of the things I think can arguably help you the most on public land is packing or setting up smartly. When you finally decide to pick your tree or wherever it is, pick it smart. Play smart, right? Don't pick a tree that, I don't know, is old, hollowed, things like that, is right in face on into the wind. Find you a good tree where you are downwind looking at your shooting lane, right? Things like that. Those are things to take in consideration when we're setting up smart setups. Wind direction, points of access, how visible are we? Wind first. Use what others call, words that are marginal, don't really have to consider wind. Really take that into your advantage. Something I want to throw out there, have you ever been outside at night or early in the morning and you can really smell things, like if a deer sprayed, or maybe your friend had too much coffee the night before when you're sitting in the duck blind? You'll be like, whoa, bro, you need to drink some water, right? And deer and other animals are much more sensitive to these smells. So wind is a huge thing to take into consideration when you're out there. Now, I'm not saying you have to take every gimmicky thing that's out there to cover your scent, and you have to have every ozone and scent blocker and detergent and body wash and things like that known to man, because in West Virginia, we got a deer in season and I had just smoked a cigarette. And I'm not proud to admit that I used to smoke cigarettes, but you have it. So, it's not always everything, but we were also downwind. So the wind playing into our face, pushing that smell away from us, was huge. So where some people might say that's marginal or don't take it into consideration, wind is one of the first things you should consider when you are setting up smart setups, right? Think about things like thermals. Hills suck air down at night and they pull it up during the day. So obviously, if we are sitting on a ridge line, we'd want to be up there at the daytime as it's being pulled up, upwind, right? Or downwind, and vice versa. There's different ways to approach things. Backdrops are huge. Don't skyline yourself. Just because you found an awesome ridge line to sit on doesn't mean we sit with nothing behind us, because when you're doing this on or moving anything on top of the hill, it is very visible. I know not everybody might be religious out there, but like I said, in the good book, a light set on a hill cannot be hidden. So when you're skylining yourself, you're up on that ridge line, right? Make sure you're keeping those minimal or movements minimal. Blend into the tree. Don't make quick movements. Move from cover and concealment to cover and concealment, right? Don't be drastic. Don't be jerky. Fit in with nature. Skip the gimmicky things. No loud rattling. No decoys in the middle of a pumpkin patch. Be invisible. I would argue that an invisible hunter is going to be more successful than somebody who skylines themselves, can't hide their scent, can't do any of those things we've talked about so far. If you can keep these things into your setup, wind direction, how thermals move, not skylighting yourself, when we should rotate, how we can look at things differently, I promise you're going to see more success in your hunts as you go out there. So tonight we went over a little bit of things, and we will recap. One of the first things we went over is pressure mapping, talking about how to know where the pressure's at, looking for our parking areas, our main trails, our main let-offs, main choke points, trailheads, things like that, right? And to pressure map, and the way to go around that, we can avoid these things by e-scouting. We can use our 80-20 mindset by going further, harder, earlier, and quieter, and that means by 20% is going to be our digital or map scouting. 80% is going to be the time that we put in. Sorry, I didn't go over that earlier. I apologize. So setting up that digital scout is going to take 20% of our time, really invest in looking at what we're going. 80% of our time is going to be on the ground checking it out. So going further, going harder, going a little earlier or later than you used to go, and go quieter, right? Make sure your boots are tied, you have everything where you need to, all the things on your pack are tightened down. That's one of those times, maybe don't have a Coke bottle out or be going every 5 yards into the Coke bottle, right? It can make a huge difference in how successful you are. Pressure mapping, we talked about that, was looking for those high move areas and avoiding them. Access hacks. Using something like a canoe, waders, I forgot to mention, that can get you into places that most hunters aren't willing to go. Going through easements, forgotten utility line roads, railroad tracks, things like that to move us around the property quieter are always ways to look at. Water entries, you know, we want to be aware of topo traps or topographical traps, the ability of a map or a saddle or a finger or ridge line isolating us and keeping us from where we want to go. Taking a picture of that, the map that we're using and bringing it with us so we always have reference. Changing up our time and rotation from midday hunts to early morning hunts, to evening hunts. You know, use them all. Don't be afraid. How we do it. So, guys, I hope some of these tips are beneficial. If you guys feel like I absolutely missed one out there, please drop it down in the comment as far as accessing public land, one of the things that can be beneficial to you. Like I said, guys, go further, go quieter, go smarter, go further. No, not go further. What was the last one? Go further, go quieter, go smarter. No. Getting all, see, there's a reason I keep those. Go further, go harder, go earlier, later, go quieter. That's the one I always forget. Earlier, later. You know why? Because I don't like to get up early. I'm just kidding. I get up early every day. But I hope some of these tips are successful. I hope you become successful out there. If you feel like there's a topic that we haven't covered or need to cover on this stream, please let us know. We'll be live again Sunday. We'll be going over some of the challenges and things that we set up. Be sure to like the stream. Drop in the chat your toughest public land challenge that you've had out there. Boop. I don't know what that did. Oops, sorry, my phone's being silly. And make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss these chats coming up soon. Next time, I hope I will be outside around the fire, make it a little bit more outposty. Sorry, we're getting there. We at least got Wi-Fi up and running at my place now, so that will make my life much easier. However, like I said, we were doing a favor for a member of where I work, and we are painting for them. They moved out of the community, so we were up here, and I figured, hey, time to get my life back on track. Time to get the streams back on track. Let's jump on real quick. Let's say hello to all the people out there, to all the beautiful people who drop by and want to see what we're doing. Let's jump on here tonight and talk about what we meant to talk about last week when the men's member mess. It was a mess. Not really. It went really well. Men's member guest last week got in the way. So thanks for stopping in tonight, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure to jump over to the actual channel, like and subscribe. Coming out with all the full links. We do have our deer hunt extravaganza that we gotten out to the woods 3 or 4 times this past couple weeks. Did we do well? Did we not do well? Check it out. The full link's coming. Haven't spilled the beans to anybody because I wouldn't want anybody to know before the video drops. We are getting better at keeping secrets. Go me. You know, remember the big 3 things we went over tonight. Pressure, access, smart setups, right? If you only remember one thing, don't avoid pressure, outsmart it. Remember to like this stream, subscribe like we said, and be sure to come back and check out the next episode. We will have Nymeria on, and we will go over a few tips and tricks for recall and dog training that we are currently using to get Nymeria out in the field for small game. Please note you will not see her in the full-length video for the deer hunting. She is still a puppy, even though she is a brilliant dog and learns quickly. Her ability to sit quietly for more than 20 or 30 minutes or use the command place for longer than that is not quite there yet. So we need to be able to push her to an hour or so before I could realistically use her for deer hunting. You do need to sit quietly for a little longer than you do for some of the small game hunting that I do use. So unfortunately, she didn't get to join me for that, but small game is in season now, so stand by. Next week, that video will be coming, and you'll get to see Nymeria in action. Hopefully some of the training pays off, right? But thank you for stopping by tonight. I want to say thank you to everybody who stops by and always gives us the like and subscribe. We appreciate you. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. No, we love and appreciate each and every one of you. If you can think of a stream topic you want us to cover or a video that you'd like to see, be sure to drop it in the comments or jump over and give us a like and subscribe if you liked what you saw. If not, thanks for stopping by. And always, as I say, remember to roam further, stay wild. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks for stopping in this evening.